Hey, this is Kelly Nielsen, the Grief Guru. And on this channel, we discuss all things related to grief. What does it look like? What does it feel like? But most importantly, we share tips, tools, and resources for how to move through grief and get back to living a life that you love. On today's episode, we're going to be exploring 8 common signs that you may have some unresolved grief lurking around. So whether you lost someone a week ago, a year ago, maybe even 5 or more years ago, these are signs that you may have some grief that is unresolved lingering under the surface. So let's get going. The first sign is irritability or anger. Do you find that you are more irritable than normal? That little things that didn't used to bother you all the time, traffic, things like that, are they just getting under your skin? That might be a sign that you haven't fully worked through grief and you have some more work to do. The second sign is hyper-alertness or anxiety. When you lose someone you love, you're confronted with the fact that we all are going to die at some point. You're confronted with your own mortality and the fact that the people you love are not going to live forever. This can result in you becoming hyper-vigilant or hyper-aware or overly concerned or sensitive about the people around you and their safety. If this is something that you're experiencing, it's a sign that there's some more work that you need to do around grief and the loss of a loved one. Next one is addiction. Unfortunately, grief, trauma, and addiction go hand in hand. When you haven't fully worked through the process of grief and loss, it's really easy to just want to numb your pain. And a lot of people find many things to numb their pain and resulting in addiction. It's not just addiction to drugs or alcohol. It can be addiction to shopping, to sex, to any of the things that numb your mind and block out the senses of feelings that you're having to deal with grief and loss. So if you're struggling with addiction, that may be a sign that you have some unresolved grief that you need to work through. The next one is depression. Now, certainly feelings of sorrow and sadness are common when you are going through grief. Actually, it would be really strange if you weren't sad. Probably would be a sign that you were numbing things. So sorrow and being sad and dealing with a certain level of depression is normal. But the question is this prolonged depression? If it has been several months or more than a year since losing a loved one and you're still just really battling with heaviness and depression, that can be a sign that you have some unresolved grief that you need to work through and process through. The next one is overworking. It's connected to the addiction one we talk about. A lot of people just dive into work and they keep themselves so busy with work that they don't ever have time to process the grief or even face the grief. They can feel like they're doing just fine because they're able to work. Some people aren't even able to work shortly after losing a loved one. So if you find that you're overworking and you're diving into your work and you're not leaving margin in your life, that may be a sign that you have some unresolved grief going on. The next one is isolation. You know, we are designed for relationship and community. And when you find yourself withdrawing, either consciously or subconsciously, out of fear of being hurt, out of fear of losing someone else, or just because you don't feel emotionally up to the task of relating to other people, if you find yourself really isolating, that can be a sign that you have some unresolved grief issues. This isn't something that is meant to last forever. It's a season, not a sentence. So if you are isolating and not connecting with others, that is a sign that you may have some unresolved grief. The next one is similar to the overworking one, but people who are overly busy, whether it's work or social events or any kind of fill in the blank. If you find that you can't sit still, if you find that you jam pack your schedule to the gills, that there's no margin in your life, that you are always going, you're always busy, you're always running around, that can be a telltale sign that you have some unresolved grief underneath the surface. If you are uncomfortable with sitting still, if you are uncomfortable just having a day to do nothing, that can be a sign that you haven't, that you're, again, trying to avoid the feelings of loss or sadness and you have not fully worked through grief and there are still some work to be done. The last one, it seems kind of obvious, but I actually have run into this multiple times with multiple clients. If you have not been able to verbalize or articulate the loss, if you have not shared the story of loss with someone, And or if you have not shared with either other family members, be it your children or your spouse, or if someone close to you passed away, if you lost a loved one and you have yet to tell members of your family or friends that you even went through the loss, that is a huge sign that you have not, that you have a lot of work to do as it relates to grief and processing through it. If you haven't been able to admit it to yourself out loud, the reality of what's happened, or you haven't been able to share that with the people closest to you, that is a sign that you have some unresolved work or unresolved grief that you need to work through. Now, the good news with all of these things, these are just signs and symptoms to point you in the direction that you may have some work to do. But there is resolution to all of these things. There is a process for dealing with your grief, processing through the loss, and truly moving on in a place of health and healing and wholeness. That's what we help folks do each and every day at the Grief Guru. But we just wanted to give you this laundry list as a check-in for yourself. Maybe you're even feeling like you've moved through grief and you don't have any unresolved issues. Do you have any of these things showing up in your life? If you do, then you may want to look again and see if there's still some work that needs to be done around grief. We invite you to take our grief assessment to do a further quick check-in with yourself to see where you're doing well in your grief recovery or where you may need some additional support in your grief recovery. As always, myself and all of us at Grief Guru are here cheering you on every step of the way. For more videos like this, certainly like and subscribe to our channel. We'll continue to provide content on all things related to grief. Until next time.